My name is Ashley. I'm 28 years old and a newlywed. My husband Ethan and I were planning to rent an apartment when we got married. Neither of us had a particularly high income, so we spent weekends visiting real estate agents, looking for a place within our means. One day, when we visited my in-laws, my mother-in-law asked if we could possibly live together, as Ethan's grandmother wasn't doing well, and she was overwhelmed with caregiving. Many people might have a negative image when suddenly asked to live together, but in my family, my mother and grandmother-in-law got along very well, so I didn't have a bad impression of living together and agreed right away. That was the beginning of hell, though. When we actually moved in, Ethan's grandmother was nowhere to be found. When I asked my sister-in-law Shannon, "Where is Grandma?" she coolly replied,
"She's been in a facility for a while now. Now, from today, Ashley, do your best as our family's housekeeper,"
and patted me on the shoulder. Surprised, I asked, housekeeper, what do you mean?"
"It means exactly what it sounds like. So from now on, you'll be in charge of preparing meals for the whole family, doing laundry and cleaning. Oh, and I'm very picky about food, so be careful when cooking, okay? But I'm also on a diet, so no fattening foods. But don't make everything low-calorie or tasteless either."
I was given this incomprehensible answer. Both Ethan and I were shocked. We had originally dreamed of starting our newlywed life together, looking for a place of our own, but decided to live with them to help care for Grandma. However, we couldn't undo what was done. Ethan and I ended up sleeping in his old room, and an unexpected hellish life in my in-laws' house began. First, the day after we started living together. My mother-in-law woke me up at 4:30 in the morning. I was sound asleep and startled awake by her loud shouting, looking around confused about what was happening.
"Quickly start the washing machine and make breakfast,"
she ordered. With my groggy mind, I started the laundry. Then toasted bread and made soup. During this time, my mother-in-law didn't help at all. She kept criticizing my lack of skill. Ethan, who woke up after me, tried to help, but my mother-in-law said,
"Don't help. This is to see her level as a wife,"
asserting her opinion and stopping Ethan. Then, my father-in-law and Shannon woke up. And we all sat around the table, but Shannon openly frowned and said,
"Ugh. What is this soup? The flavor is so weak. I've never had such a tasteless soup before. Ashley, are you really making Ethan drink this awful stuff? I mean, if Ethan thinks this is tasty, his taste buds must have really gone bad."
She started dissing my cooking. I kept apologizing, I'm sorry," while Ethan said,
"It's not bad at all. Mom's soup is just too salty. And sis, don't complain when you've never even cooked before."
This scolding of Shannon caused her to become furious, and the morning turned into an awful situation. From that day on, I was treated terribly at my in-laws' house. My in-laws, who were so friendly during our pre-wedding visits, now only gave me orders or treated me like I was invisible. Shannon's transformation was especially extreme, and in the house, she acted as if she was superior to everyone else, clearly thinking of me as her personal housekeeper.
Ashley, don't get cocky just because you got married first, okay? These days, getting married isn't anything special, and for someone as unproductive as you, Ashley, you should consider yourself lucky to even be married. Well, letting you do housework here is also to keep you from getting too full of yourself, so learn about hierarchical society from now on, okay?
This was clearly a hostile statement towards me for getting married first, but I remained silent. Of course, I didn't think getting married first made me superior at all. Ethan and I got married simply because we loved each other. But I think Shannon, at 30, was feeling anxious about not finding a marriage partner. It seemed she was maintaining her composure by venting her stress on me. There was also this incident. That day was my in-laws' wedding anniversary, and Shannon had told me.
We're ordering hors d'oeuvres today, so you don't need to make dinner.
Ethan and I bought celebratory flowers and a cake on our way home from work. But everyone was already in the middle of eating the hors d'oeuvres when we arrived.
You're late. Here, this is Ethan's portion of the hors d'oeuvres.
Shannon handed them only to him, which startled Ethan.
Where's Ashley's portion?
When he asked, Shannon, while eating some premium prosciutto, said,
Oh, there wasn't any for her from the start. After all, today is Mom and Dad's wedding anniversary, right? So why should we order hors d'oeuvres for an outsider? Come on, Ethan, just hurry up and eat your hors d'oeuvres. The plates are going to be collected soon.
She said this nonchalantly. Ethan was furious at Shannon's attitude. Originally, we had agreed to live together to help care for his grandmother. But they didn't tell us that his grandmother had entered a facility, tricking us into living with them, then treated me like a housekeeper, and now calling me an outsider and not letting me eat the hors d'oeuvres.
If that's the case, there's no need to live together, and we'll leave.
He said. Ethan, who had always defended me and proactively helped with housework when he didn't have work, forgot it was his parents' wedding anniversary and scolded his family harshly. His parents, who had always doted on Ethan, were utterly shocked. Apparently, he had never gone through a rebellious phase and was rather quiet, the type to listen well to his parents, so they probably never expected him to raise his voice after getting married. However, his sister Shannon was quick to retort.
Hey, Ethan. Are you aware that you're the eldest son? You used to be such a good boy, but the moment you married this woman, you've become quite selfish, haven't you? You should divorce her right now. It's because you're with this woman that you can't get promoted and you're stuck living such a hopeless life.
Shannon. That's going too far. Ethan is always kind and truly a good person. I'm newly married and have many shortcomings, and I'm truly sorry for that. But I also feel uncomfortable with how different the living arrangement turned out to be. I married him to live a happy life together, not to take on all the housework in this house. When I, who had been treated as a housekeeper until now, expressed my opinion, Shannon finally lost it.
Don't you dare give your opinion when you're just a housekeeper. If Ethan and Ashley hate living here so much, then both of you can leave. Both of you are low-income earners with no decent jobs. As if you could manage living on your own.
The day after that stormy night, both Ethan and I were treated completely like air in his parents' house. However, despite being told to leave, I was still expected to do the housework as a matter of course, while being ignored otherwise, quite a convenient arrangement for them. Since there was no need to stay in such an environment indefinitely, Ethan and I decided to secretly search for a place to live on our days off. It was true that our income was low, and as long as we were at his parents' house, not having to pay rent was the only thing we were grateful for, but we figured that at this rate, the day when even our entire salaries would be taken away was approaching. But one day, Shannon, looking as if she might start skipping at any moment, excitedly declared,
I'm getting married. You too, get out of this house by the end of this month.
It was a sudden eviction notice.
You know, a friend introduced me to a great guy who wants to get married soon. He's 10 years older than me, but he's super handsome and successful at work. And he says he'll become an adopted son-in-law when we marry, and Dad and Mom are really happy about it. We don't need the traitor Ethan anymore, so you two can do whatever you want. Well, it'll be interesting to see how long you can survive on that low income of yours.
I see. First of all, congratulations. Then Ethan and I will leave. Thank you for everything until now. With Shannon's marriage decided, his parents' house was in a festive mood every night. Ethan, who was already on my side, was treated like a traitor. As a result, We were forbidden from eating meals together with the family, and had to eat in our small room, but this actually led to more lively conversations and expanded our thoughts about our new home. And on the day we moved out the last of our belongings from his parents' house, Shannon, happy to have driven us out, said,
"Are you done moving? Don't ever cross our threshold again." Dad and Mom said, "You don't need to report to them even if you have kids."
"We're just moving out the last of our belongings, and we're leaving now." "Understood. From now on, let's agree to have no contact with each other whatsoever. We wish you and your family happiness, Shannon."
"I don't need that. Just get out already."
Shannon made a shooing gesture as if to drive me away. Ethan and I left his parents' house without looking back. After that, we rented a small apartment and started a modest life together. We take turns cooking and talk about our day while eating. We never knew such simple things could bring us so much happiness. We savored the fact that after being kicked out of his parents' house, we finally got to experience a real newlywed life. 6 months later, we had gotten used to living together, and Ethan and I were excitedly discussing our delayed honeymoon plans. We looked at various travel brochures, debating every day whether to go to Hawaii or Japan. However, as if to shatter this peace, we received a phone call from Shannon. Thinking it was probably just to brag about her newlywed life, I pressed the answer button, but instead heard a frantic scream.
"Ashley. Ethan. Come back home right now. My parents and I are at our limit."
Huh? Shannon. What suddenly happened? Did something occur with your husband?
"That guy isn't a husband or anything. I've been deceived. I mean, normally when someone says they'll register and become an adopted son-in-law, you'd think only the husband would come, right? But that person brought his parents and grandparents too. Can you believe it?"
Wow. His grandparents are still healthy in their 70s? That's amazing. When I expressed genuine surprise, Shannon snapped.
"That's not what I'm trying to say."
And continued her story.
"The family my husband brought is terrible. Never mind the grandparents, but my father-in-law and mother-in-law don't do any housework at all. They won't even do their own laundry, so my mother and I are doing everything from cooking to laundry, cleaning the bath, and taking care of the grandparents. And if they at least seemed apologetic, that would be one thing, but they act like it's only natural for us to do it all. As for my husband, he keeps quitting his jobs. He's changed jobs 3 times in just half a year of marriage. With that, we're not getting any income, and all of my salary is being used up. I can't take this life anymore. So, both of you, come help us."
To be honest, Shannon's story was so shocking that I was left speechless. What an enormous boomerang this was.
The worst part was the reason he became an adopted son-in-law. It turns out, my husband had tens of thousands of dollars in debt. He couldn't get credit cards anymore, so he changed his surname to get new cards. Then he used those cards to buy a new car and got into gambling, and now we're getting mountains of debt collection notices. When I confronted him, he got angry, and my in-laws say things like we should take care of them instead of worrying about such things. Our house is in chaos. On top of that, my husband says that as a married couple, it's only right that we repay the debts together, and now he's telling me to get more jobs. I'm not a housekeeper. Don't you think I'm pitiful?
Well, not really.
Excuse me.
When I didn't show agreement, Shannon's voice expressed utter incomprehension. Conversely, it was a mystery to me why she thought I would agree, but I continued regardless. To put it bluntly, isn't this just what you and your family did to Ethan and me coming back to you? It's called karma or reaping what you sow. You might have completely forgotten, but you clearly told me to do my best as your family's housekeeper. I married Ethan because I wanted to, and agreed to live with you to help care for his grandmother. But that was definitely not to become a housekeeper. I understand that your husband turned out to be an awful con man. However, that doesn't give you the right to ask me for help. So, please figure it out on your own from here on. Now, I'm going to bed, so good night.
Wait a minute. We're really in trouble right now. My husband used up not just our living expenses, but even my savings. Even though I just got paid, it's already gone. And we can't even prepare tomorrow's meals. So, could you lend us some money? I promise I'll pay it back.
I refuse. I'm sure your husband has been borrowing money from various places, always promising to pay it back. And I know that such people never intend to pay back even a cent. If you really hate it, I think you should get a divorce. It might have been your long-awaited marriage at 30, but you're still only 30. You can still start over in life.
I'd divorce him if I could. But my husband won't agree to it. He said he loved me and I was cute, but it turns out he only saw me as a cash cow. Anyway, if we don't pay back some of the debt collectors will come. Could you lend me even $100? I promise I'll pay it back.
You chose to live with your husband and kicked Ethan and me out, didn't you? After being so selfish, isn't it too presumptuous to ask for money when you're in trouble? Ethan is also listening and is appalled.
I wasn't in my right mind back then. I'm sorry. I truly regret it now. Dad and Mom also say they realize how blessed they were when you both were here. They say they want to see their grandchildren if you have any, and they won't ask for unreasonable things like living together again. So please come help us.
You're still saying quite unreasonable things. Anyway, we reject everything you ask from us. Shannon, you're an adult, so you should consult the appropriate places and take action to solve your problems. The most we can do is offer advice. We'll be watching from afar. Now, let's enjoy our newlywed lives. So, good night for real this time. After that, Shannon had a huge fight with her husband's family, resulting in the grandparents moving into a facility, and her in-laws reluctantly renting a public housing unit and moving out. However, her husband apparently refuses to divorce Shannon out of stubbornness, and while he's somehow working, he still relies on Shannon's salary and does whatever he wants. Until now, Shannon, who had been living at home, used her salary freely, but now most of it disappears into debt repayments, and she's said to have aged about 10 years all at once. Meanwhile, Ethan and I regularly visit his grandmother who's in the facility. Among the relatives, Shannon's situation has become a big issue, and a kind aunt and uncle volunteered to look after Ethan's grandmother, and they're also looking out for Ethan and me. Furthermore, we've just found out that I'm expecting a baby, and we're both eagerly awaiting its birth. Of course, we won't report to his parents when our child is born, but we plan to introduce the baby to Ethan's aunt and uncle who've been helping us, and to his grandmother. Ethan has also been promoted at work due to high evaluations, and it's been decided that his salary will increase. When I was living as a housekeeper at his parents' house, I never dreamed we could live such a happy life. Now Ethan is attending parenting classes and buying baby supplies, eagerly awaiting the child's birth. From now on, we will live for our own family's happiness.